I pledge allegiance to the flag and the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That doesn't sound like what we just said, is it? But that's what it sounded like in 1892 when Ralph Bellamy wrote the Pledge of Allegiance. And like Maureen told you, I was curious about this thing I've been saying for so many years and taking for granted what it meant, that for some reason last week, the last time we were here, just made me think, what does this mean? Why was it written? So I did go to Google, and the first 3 websites I came up with said it was written for a flag promotion from a magazine in 1892. I was just stunned. I thought, here I've been saying this, thinking it was such a noble thing to say, and it was a sales promotion. And I go, no, this is not right. Sometimes you can read things in the internet and they're just not right. And so I decided this time I'm going to look for very credible websites. That might help. So I found the Smithsonian website, and here is how the story goes. Yes, in 1892, Ralph Bellamy did write the pledge. But it's not what you think. He was a minister, a Baptist minister, and he had a pulpit in Boston. But he was too radical for the ministry. He was very liberal, he was very social, he believed in women and black equality, and that just didn't fly in those days. And so they asked him to step down, and he lost his pulpit. So he was looking for a job, and that's how he came to be working in the promotions department of a magazine called The Youth Companion, which was a periodical for education professionals. He was very active in the education. He was actually chairman of the National Education Association. So it befitted him, his interest, to work for a publication that he could reach children. And because he was so good with words, he got the job in the promotions, and his boss asked him to write a promotion for selling flags, one of their advertisers. Being who he was, he could have taken it and just made a flag promotion, but he was a very tenacious man, apparently, because he got this bigger idea that he thought, this is a way I can reach children. And there was, about the indivisible, there was still going on this feeling of not congruency or cohesiveness in the government, in the people, because of the Civil War. They still were very divided. So he thought of a way of bringing in that the togetherness and equality. He liked equality, and he really wanted to make it something worthwhile. So he actually made this pledge, and he wrote an article about the pledge, and he made a certain salute to do with the pledge, and he took his idea to Congress, and he lobbied Congress to endorse the pledge to be said every morning for school children. And then he went to President Harrison, and had President Harrison proclaim Columbus Day, because his idea was that this was the World's Fair in Chicago was happening, and there was a Columbian exhibition celebrating Columbus's 400th anniversary of getting into finding the New World. That's what they say. And he thought this would be a great kickoff time. So Columbus Day being on October 12th, being Columbus Day, so that's how we got Columbus Day, who knew? And the children, he went to the schools and had them buy flags, and he had them get, learn the pledge. And this is how the pledge went on October 18th, the first day it happened. So October 12th, 1892, that it went, the principal will call the children into rank form, standing in military style, and they will begin the pledge. I pledge my allegiance to the flag and the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll talk about that salute later. So that was called the Bellamy salute, and it was okay because it wasn't, it was actually used in like, I think, Greece or something at one point. It wasn't a bad thing. So until 1932, that's the way it was said and done. And then the Daughters of the American Revolution got into worried about that. It said the flag. Which flag? There were a lot of immigrants coming in from the World War I, and they were concerned that, and also as Europe was getting bad in 1932, that they wanted to make sure that everybody who was pledging to the flag was knowing what allegiance and what flag they were pledging it to. So they went to Congress and asked Congress to add the words, I pledge allegiance to my flag of the United States of America, and and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And that is what it sounded like up until later, maybe about 5 or 6 years later, when we went to war with Germany. And the salute was looking pretty much like a Nazi salute. So Congress changed it to over the heart, which I feel a lot better about too, especially in lieu of what history brought the salute to look like. And then in 1942, because of going into war, they wanted to change, they wanted to make there was this idea of patriotism. So Congress, under the flag code, changed it to where it was mandatory to say the pledge at meetings and at schools. And this got the Jehovah's Witnesses upset, because Jehovah's Witnesses do not pray or vow or pledge to any graven image, and they felt that the flag was a graven image, and they refused on their rights, of freedom of speech and freedom of expression of religion, that they wouldn't. And so they took it all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court sided with them that yes, under the Freedom of Expression Act, that they could, not under the freedom of religion, but under expression, that they did not have to stand up. So now it was still mandatory with exceptions. And then in my dates here. In 1954, the Cold War was going on. And also, the Knights of Columbus, a very Catholic organization, had been saying this pledge in their meetings for a very long time, but they had always added under God. And they decided that it was a very good thing to add under God, so everybody had to say it. And under the flag code back in 1942, it was stated that only the president now could change the pledge. So they went to President Eisenhower and convinced him that under God would be a good thing to add to the pledge. So now the pledge has, I pledge allegiance to my flag and the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now that sounds more like what we just said. But the website stated that it's not finished yet, because it just seems like the pledge kind of goes along with what's going on in our history, and it gets changed as we need it to change. It's this kind of fluid thing, and it kind of, shows what's going on in our history and how we change. And Ralph Bellamy, his granddaughter said, would be very upset to know that under God is in there, because being a Baptist minister, he could have put under God in there, but he chose to not make it a divisive but more cohesive piece. And he also wanted to put equality in, because he did believe in equality. And because he wanted to be not divisive, he wanted to be more cohesive, he chose not to put equality in. So why would he put in something also like that? So the next time that you look at the flag and you say the Pledge of Allegiance, you can either say it mindlessly, like it was supposed to be written for a flag promotion, or you can say it think about what you're saying and really bring it the meaning that Ralph Bellamy wanted it to have.